Breaking news. Putin's narrowing worldview is highlighted by his absence from the BRICS summit. There was a time when world leaders flocked to Moscow to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In the weeks leading up to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, these leaders took it in turns traveling to the Russian capital to convince Putin to back down. Those attempts were futile. However, the man responsible for starting a disastrous war has very few places he can go. To the man who rules a country spanning 11 time zones, that may seem like a minor issue. Since the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Putin has been welcomed with open arms in Central Asia and Iran by Kremlin-friendly leaders. And he always has Minsk. Russian invasion launchpad provider and Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko has hosted Putin. However, Putin won't be attending this week's BRICS summit in Johannesburg, a major international event. His absence reflects Putin's narrowing worldview and the growing isolation of Russia. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Chinese leader Xi Jinping, Brazilian President Luiz Lula da Silva, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are all members of the BRICS economic bloc and are expected to attend. However, Ramaphosa's office said last month that Putin would not be attending, by mutual agreement. Russian state media have reported that Putin will appear via video link, but in his place is Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Is it really going to make a difference if Putin slacks off? Participating in a global talk shop is a simple way to look like a player on the international stage, but Putin is still missing more than just another group photo. While the United States and Western-led institutions have harshly condemned Russia for its war in Ukraine, Putin is a staunch supporter of what he calls a multipolar world order, promoting structures like the BRICS as a counterweight to these groups. Despite widespread Western condemnation of Russia's actions, Moscow is continuing its push for international influence and support, especially in the global south. Putin's recent Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg had as one of its main goals bolstering such support against the backdrop of the war on Ukraine. Even though only about half of the African heads of state who attended a similar 2019 conference showed up for the one held last month, Russia is still counting on diplomatic and political support from countries across Africa, Latin America, and Asia in order to advance its foreign policy goals. Why, then, would Putin pass up yet another chance to spread his ideas? To begin, there is the rather weighty matter of an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. Putin and another Russian official were wanted by the ICC in March for their alleged role in a plot to illegally deport Ukrainian children to Russia. South Africa found itself in a difficult position as a result of the ICC warrant because, as a signatory to the treaty governing the Hague Court, it is required to arrest individuals indicted by the ICC. Speculating that Putin was detained in Johannesburg is, at best, wishful thinking. While visiting South Africa in 2015, then Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, who is still wanted by the International Criminal Court, ICC, for war crimes and crimes against humanity related to the genocide in Darfur, avoided such an outcome by leaving the country before a court could rule on the ICC's request to arrest him. Of course, the Kremlin takes offense at any suggestion that Putin is avoiding the BRICS summit because he is wanted on an international criminal court warrant. Dmitry Peskov, the official Kremlin spokesman, refuted Ramaphosa's claims in the affidavit that Russia would consider the arrest of Putin to be a declaration of war. In addition, Putin told reporters on July 29 that he did not consider his attendance at the BRICS summit to be more important than my presence in Russia now, as reported by Russia's official news agency, TASS. Putin's absence from the summit would not look good for Moscow's image, regardless of his motivations. However, Russia continues to push forward with a public relations campaign that portrays Russia as an anti-colonial power that advocates for greater global justice and equality. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov summarized the key points in a recently published interview. I certainly agree that the concept of Western domination promoted by the United States and its subordinate countries does not provide for the harmonious development of all humanity, he said. Instead, we have to deal with the Western minority's incessant push for global dominance in every sphere of society and economy. Their rhetoric shifts from support for globalization and westernization to that of Americanism and universalism and liberalism, among other monikers. The core idea is the same. They want to make sure that every autonomous actor plays by the rules that the West prefers. The United States and its allies are trying to halt or even reverse the process of the multipolar system's formation, Lavrov said. To get what they want, they are willing to resort to any means necessary, legal or otherwise, including the use of force, unilateral sanctions, not sanctioned by the UN Security Council, information and psychological warfare, etc. The irony is thick in this case. After all, Putin has used extremely imperialistic language to justify Russia's war with Ukraine. And Putin seems to think that the end of the unipolar world means Russia can continue its bloody occupation of Ukraine without interference from international norms, under the false banner of liberation.